Welcome back, everyone. Pal Ponder on Weather here. We have a serious situation unfolding with likely the biggest storm to strike in decades. So let's take a look at the overall big picture and show you what we're talking about of this rapidly developing low pressure center off the west coast. Really deepens tonight into tomorrow morning down to a 957 millibar low pressure with very intense winds, if not hurricane force winds, are going to be impacting portions of California tomorrow with all this atmospheric river and moisture. Deep tropical moisture is going to be pounding the coastline with widespread prolific flooding for much of California, especially Northern California. And we've got much of the deep south as well, still experiencing those severe storms. And then we've got some heavier snows into the northwest side of this low pressure center into portions of Minnesota and Wisconsin. So if we go into tomorrow, this is what we're talking about, guys. We actually have a moderate risk for excessive rainfall, especially along the coast here in San Francisco and to Monterey. Those areas could easily pick up 4 to 6 inches of rainfall just in the next 24 hours, and those heavier rains will extend all the way inland and all the way down to the coast. So definitely widespread rainfall for tomorrow with a serious situation unfolding. So if you are new to the channel and like detailed weather breakdowns on North America, hit the subscribe button and you're in. You got all my daily updates on this channel, and I do update every single day. So let's talk about this setup for tomorrow, because this is definitely a serious situation unfolding, and break it down for you. Just for tomorrow, we're looking at 3 to 5 inches of rain for the valleys areas, 4 to 6 inches into the hills, and up to 8 to 10 inches in the mountain regions. It's going to be starting off tomorrow morning on Wednesday and extending all the way into Thursday morning, just for over those 24-hour time frame. And then it just continues into the day on Friday with another 1 to 2 inches of rainfall for the valleys, another 4 to 5 inches potentially in the higher terrain. So we're talking impacts of falling debris will cause a threat to life, especially for those exposed to the elements. Down power lines, down trees, tree branches, power outages, road blockages. We're talking any added debris to waterways, and especially the higher winds of up to 35 to 55 miles an hour, and they could be locally higher up to hurricane force winds. And this is pretty serious, guys. This is the latest update from the National Weather Center, and this is pretty dire, using these type of wordings in their language on the weather discussion. They simply put it as, this is likely would be one of the most impactful systems on a widespread scale that they've seen in a long time. The impacts will include widespread flooding, roads washing out, hillsides collapsing, trees down, potentially full grows, widespread power outages. You're talking immediate disruption to commerce, and worst of all, likely potentially loss of life. So this is definitely a system that's a brutal system that we are looking at and needs to be taken seriously. So as we go through the 24-hour time span, this is just over the next 24 hours. Some of these areas could pick up 2-year rainfall estimates, 5-year, and even some areas could pick up a 10-year event with some of these 4 to 6, if not almost 8 inches of rainfall just in the next 24 hours. And they've already seen a lot of rain in this area for the last 7 days. This is adding to these totals, and there's plenty more trailing behind this particular system. So if we broaden the view, in the mountain regions, we're talking prolific snow rates of up to 7 inches per hour up there by Donner Pass in the mountain regions. And even in the western slopes of Colorado, picking up some heavier snows, but the snow continues to fly into portions of Nebraska. I know Sioux Falls is up to a foot of snow for them, and that it just extends with those winter storm warnings into St. Paul, back into Duluth, back into Green Bay. And then it's all about the severe threat further south, where they do have those tornado watches unfolding in portions of New Orleans, into Jackson, as well as into Montgomery. That extends all the way up into portions of Tennessee, with just some rain as you go further north into Bowling Green as well as into Cincinnati. And it changes over to some freezing rain once you get up into portions of Vermont and New Hampshire. But that tornado watch has been extended. It actually has extended all the way into portions of the Montgomery area, back into Columbus, into the LaGrange. That does include the Atlanta metro area, which extends all the way into Macon as well as into Athens. Those areas extending as far north as into Dalton, Georgia. Through 9 o'clock tonight, could likely see a few tornadoes, likely, with some of these areas picking up some quarter-size hail and those 70-mile-per-hour scattered wind gusts with this impact between now and that 9 o'clock time frame. And then going into tomorrow, that severe threat extends because there's going to be a second system coming in into the overnight time frame. So it's going to be a bumpy overnight as well, and then a rush hour tomorrow morning. So those areas could be highly impacted into portions of Florida, especially in the panhandle of Florida, getting into the southern portions of Alabama, getting into Atlanta again. They're going to be hit hard again with a second round of severe storms into the overnight, extending into the rush hour tomorrow morning. And then a little bit lighter intensity as you extend further north into South Carolina and to North Carolina. But look at the record high temperatures for today. We're talking upwards to 46 record highs. And that's why we're talking about severe weather, guys. Very unusual seeing these temperatures, widespread 70s for a good chunk of the deep south. Even into Florida, we're talking widespread 80s. This is the middle of winter, folks. This is plenty warm, and that warm goes all the way up into Tennessee. We're talking lower 70s for them. Even in Kentucky, lower 70s. Even into portions of the Ohio Valley, we're talking middle 60s for this time of year. Even into Pittsburgh, we're talking 65 degrees. So that is plenty warm for this time of year, and that's why we do have those stronger storms to contend with those higher dew points. And that just continues into tomorrow. We do have a Pacific front that trails this system, but out ahead of it, if you're in the warm sector, you're going to be 25 to 30 degrees above average. That is insanely warm for this time of year. And that is why we're talking about the severe weather that's on the table and the very heavy rainfall. That's why they've got numerous flood watches down here in this sector as well, so that you have to be concerned about with very heavy rain. But like I mentioned, those moderate risk for excessive rainfall for tomorrow just extends into the day on Thursday, because we have another system that's going to be trailing into California. And now it's going to be more likely into the central and southern regions of California that's going to be picking up the higher rain totals. So the entire state definitely gets hit with this system just over the next 2 days. And obviously this is helping to fill up the lakes. This is the current reservoirs for California, the top 10 at least. Shasta Lakes up to 33% capacity. Obviously these are dangerously low, but these were into the upper 20 range just a week or so ago. We're talking Lake Oroville up to 36%. They were at the 28% range. So we've seen drastic improvements. Obviously, it's not good to see it all at once, but you know the old saying, all droughts end in floods. And that's exactly what's going to happen. It's just too much too fast. You're going to have to deal with the major flooding that's going to be widespread and all the impacts that go along with it. But the good thing is it's going to help fill up the lakes. And obviously they have a long ways to go to even make a dent in the drought they've been dealing with for many years. So let's look at the winter storm impacts as well, because there's another side to this, the snow side to this, which is very heavy in the mountain regions and California here with extreme impacts. That's why when you get 7-inch per hour snow rates, you can't even see it in front of you in that stuff. So it's very dangerous to travel in that stuff, pretty much whiteout conditions up here. And then even up here into the portions of South Dakota and to Minnesota, they've got moderate and major impacts from these, from this storm system. Some double-digit totals is easily not out of the question in some areas, like into Valentine and Sioux Falls. They've already picked up double inch totals in those regions. So that'll be extending into portions of Wisconsin going into later on today into tomorrow time frame. But it doesn't stop there, because as we go into Friday into Saturday time frame, yet we have another vorticity coming down. So this is interesting because look at the 540 line. It does pull itself through portions of the Ohio Valley, and there's some model guidance is hinting a little bit of a clipper system that comes through that could, drop a 1 to 3 inch snow range in these areas. But yes, we have another system gonna be impacting the west coast of California, and then another system just on its heels trailing beyond that. So let's take a look at some of those snowfall totals on the national blend, because it does pick up that snow event that could unfold in portions of the Ohio Valley. This is the setup that's going through the next 2 days of compounding on the snow they've already received. These are additional totals of a good 6 to 12 inches in these purple shaded areas. But a piece of this could actually break off and drift into northern portions of Illinois, Indiana, as well as Ohio, and that could shift into portions of Pennsylvania. These areas could pick up 1 to 3 inches of snowfall with this little system, as the Intermountain West just gets crushed with those heavier snow amounts, and some snow amounts as well into portions of Vermont and New Hampshire, and headed in pretty much the entire state of Maine. But it doesn't end there, because as we go into the weekend, as we go into Sunday, look at the water vapor just transporting all that Pacific moisture and dumping it into California. Just relentless storm after storm after storm just pounds the coastline, with higher winds again impacting those areas, and those will be adding to those rainfall totals that you'll see over the next couple of days. And it doesn't stop there. It's like a broken record, because even as we go into next week on Tuesday, looking at the map again, where we have yet another 994 millibar low pressure coming in off the Aleutian Islands, and then just one trailing behind that one. So these are going to be just relentless systems. Every day or every couple of days or so are going to be pounding the west coast, as this atmospheric river of moisture just inundates the west coast region. So let's take a look at the overall soil moisture content since basically Halloween time frame. And these are the areas that have picked up some of the beneficial, if not too much rain all at once. So obviously these areas that don't need the rain technically currently right now are the portions of Northern California, which they have seen heavier totals as of late. In fact, San Francisco picked up 5.5 inches just the other day in a 24-hour time span, and they could be looking at some of that intense stuff even into tomorrow. So they could be looking at another event like that. It's been, for the most part, missing the midsection of the country, but once it's able to tap into some of this Gulf moisture, it's picking up heavier amounts, and the soil moisture is a lot higher once you extend into portions of Louisiana along into the deep south. But let's check out some of these totals, because this is definitely concerning, adding between now and next Wednesday. This is just over the next 7 days, guys, and this is one from the Weather Prediction Center over the next 168 hours. These areas in yellow, that's not a misprint. That is 10 to 15 inches of rainfall. That is some serious rain, compounding what you've already seen and adding to those totals. So obviously that's going to cause widespread flooding and some serious flooding in those areas. And again, for the most part, it misses the midsection of the country. I just looked at the data. It's actually been 21 days in a row since Dallas has actually received any precipitable water, rainfall. And it's going to probably be another 7 days, because that basically misses you guys again over the next 7 days and picks it up a little bit further south into Houston, into East Texas, but especially as you go into Louisiana and far in the deep south, adding to those heavier totals. What you're getting now, most of this is going to be in the form of heavier rain further south, and then once you pull inland, it'll be a mixed bag of precipitation the further north you're able to go. But look at the totals on the blend for the next 10 days. This is serious stuff, guys. all these areas in purple, this is basically off the charts. You don't really see this. And this is the blend. I'm just not model picking. This is the blend of all models, which is basically an ensemble guidance. And it's printing out 13 inches of rainfall, 16 inches, 20 inches of rainfall. Look at it maxing out at 28 inches. That is some serious rainfall over the next 10 days. Just going to pound California, and that's why we're talking about this serious event unfolding that you need to be taken seriously, not just tomorrow and the next day, but for the next 7 to 10 days, as very heavy rain will be inundating those areas with widespread flooding. So I appreciate you watching this update. Definitely check me out on Facebook and Twitter, as well as Instagram. I update on those as well, and catch me in the next update, why I protect you before and after the storm.